Today, I want to talk about cats. Izutsumi, codenamed Asabi, is introduced as a fairly one-note character in the latter half of Dungeon Meshi. She seems to exist as yet another example of Ryoko Kui's sense of humor. If there are dog-like kobolds in this world, wouldn't it be funny if there was also a cat? Wouldn't it be funny if the cat turned into a dog? And wouldn't it be funny if it was actually all of the worst traits of a cat instead of all the lovable ones? It's a sort of comedic what-if that we've come to expect out of Dungeon Meshi so far. What-ifs that flip our expectations of fantasy, anime, and even the series itself. But rewatching some of her scenes, I was struck with how quietly sad Izutsumi's situation is. And that's primarily what I want to talk about in this video. Because for a series that asks these what-ifs, Izutsumi asks an even bigger one. What if Dungeon Meshi's most tragic character is hiding in plain sight? Izutsumi is introduced at a really narratively interesting point in Dungeon Meshi. By the time we meet Shuro's party, we're already familiar with the characters and the premise of this show. We know that things are subversive from typical fantasy tropes. We know the ecology of the dungeon is important. We know the characters and monsters in the dungeon itself aren't quite normal. And with the absolute insanity of episode 17 and the fallout of everything that happens with Chimera Fallon and the meeting of the three parties, it was the perfect time for a shakeup. Enter Izutsumi. Just like the stray cat you didn't know you wanted, Izutsumi quickly makes herself at home with the rest of the characters. While initially introduced as part of Shuro's squad, while the kobold is giving her the stink eye the entire time, she realizes that Marcel's familiarity with black magic just might make the elven mage the exact person she's been looking for. But we'll get into that. Izutsumi is such a fun character because she's basically the worst nightmare of the entire party at this point. She's picky and wasteful and doesn't use her tools properly, which is pretty much the only time we've ever seen Senshi lose his patience. She ignores Marcel's warnings, which causes a literal ticking time bomb on her neck to summon a knife-wielding Onibaba. And in a fight with Chilchuk, she's brash, confrontative, and low-key kinda racist, like, damn Asabi, this isn't a COD lobby, you can't just say all that about half-feet. Everyone in the party should hate Izutsumi. She's the unholy Dragon Ball Z fusion of the two most annoyingly fickle things on the planet, a cat and a teenage girl. And yet, to this party, she's the one piece they were missing. Oh shit, One Piece reference? Up until now, Dungeon Meshi's main cast has had a fairly standard array of a fantasy party. Human fighter, elven mage, halfling union rep, dwarf ranger, they cover a lot of ground. But the one area that's lacking is, oh shit, it's ninjas, baby. Ninjas might seem like a strange addition to the typical Western fantasy style premise, but flipping through the classes of wizardry, one of Ryoko Kui's main inspirations behind Dungeon Meshi, we can see some clear outliers of these standard fantasy classes, namely samurai and ninjas. This is just one of Ryoko Kui's huge nods to wizardry, aside from literally everything else, but that's a whole other video, and leave a comment if you want that video. Izutsumi immediately carves a niche for herself, doing insane parkour around a golem like it's nothing, and cementing herself as the dex-based fighter the group needed.
I'm fast as fuck, boy. Still fast as fuck, boy. Come get some.
But it's not just fighting style. Personality-wise too, she complements the rest of the party in sometimes unexpected ways. She's the first real hope Laios has that Fallon might also one day regain her mind from the eldritch body horror scenario she's in. And she's genuinely a youngin' for Senshi and Chilchuk to care for. Hell yeah, we love co-parenting. And no one would ever admit it, but her and Marcel are fast friends, especially after the wolf incident and what happened in Golden Country. We don't talk about what happened in Golden Country. One of the biggest recurring literary techniques of Dungeon Meshi is subversion, changing the perception on what we think we know about both fantasy and anime tropes. And I almost can't think of a more subversive anime cat girl, like, maybe ever. Without getting too deep into a rabbit hole that I'm sure you guys can explore for yourselves, the typical anime waifu catgirl is the exact kind of stale trope that Dungeon Meshi is ready to flip on its head. A catgirl is supposed to be cute and sexy, doting on our main character, meowing, and basically only exists for gags and fan service. I'll give Merle from Escaflowne rights, and like Aisha from Outlaw Star. Oh, and I guess Leith from Fire Emblem. This like literally isn't even in the script. Maybe catgirls are okay after all. Izutsumi is like the anti-anime catgirl. Not only is she not overly sexualized, she literally doesn't even have anything to sexualize. That "what were you expecting" moment in the hot spring is hilarious, because what were you expecting? Has anime really poisoned our minds that badly? Why is that our default in these kind of scenes? It's a direct challenge to the audience, and I think it's such a good piece of commentary. Not only that, but Izutsumi just straight up has no romantic or physical attraction to, well, anything. And the rest of Izutsumi plays with our expectations in the same way. She's not cutesy or here for fan service or just here to be the butt of several cat jokes. She's an absolute menace demon because she's a cat, and also just a regular ass person with flaws and merits because she's a girl, growing up and learning who she is. Now, if you're new to the channel, I'm an anime only, so I have no idea how Izutsumi's story ends, nor do I really know how it began. Both the anime and Izutsumi's manga introductions are pretty vague with the details of how her curse came about. We know she's an artificially created beastman, which means that she's, to borrow Marcel's analogy, 2 souls in 1 eggshell. And to continue that analogy further with Senshi's explanation, instead of Fallon, who is 1 soul attached to another, giving us some real hope the 2 can be taken apart, Izutsumi is mixed together, inextricably linked, with little hope of salvation should those souls ever hope to be dismantled. Although it's kind of understated, Izutsumi's situation is far more dire than Fallon's, while also serving as a sort of counter-narrative to Fallon's story. While we're headed into season 2 with a real plan of attack on how to cure Fallon, we still have no idea if anything can be done to truly save Izutsumi. I wouldn't say she's doomed by the narrative at all. I just think unless Senshi can come up with a way to separate the omelet from the toppings, there's not much that we know can be done to help her. Maybe it'll become this like full circle moment, and Izutsumi picking off the mushrooms out of the dish is actually like the metaphorical solution all along, but I digress. The reason why I wanted to talk about Izutsumi is because the show never really paints her as a tragic character. It's subtle. You could argue that a character like Marcel is likely heading towards tragedy, and Kaoru and Senshi have those tragic backstories, sure, but unlike those other characters, Izutsumi is quite literally inseparable from it. And that's because of why I wanted to make this video. Izutsumi is a trauma narrative. In horror movies, body horror is typically a metaphor for something. In Ginger Snaps, the teenage girls transforming into werewolves is an exploration of how monstrous it feels to navigate early womanhood. In The Substance, we have this fear of aging and everything that comes with it, not being wanted or desired in the ways you once were. And we can extend this a lot further with a lot of recent elevated horror in general, where most kinds of monsters, hauntings, possessions, curses are just various forms of the characters coming to terms with their own grief, anxieties, or trauma. Metaphoric writing isn't exclusive to horror by any means, but monsters in fiction are maybe the most obvious visual metaphors that we have. And circling back to what ifs, what if it's the character themselves that becomes that visual metaphor? It's in this sort of vein that Izutsumi as a character has some real depth. If you look at her curse as this fictive analog for childhood trauma, everything changes. This undefined instance of evil quite literally changed who she was and stole any hope at a normal future she could have had. It can singularly be pointed to as the moment she lost her innocence. In the present, it manifests not only through her antisocial character traits and poor mannerisms, but also by literally being a physical scar that anyone can see, something that can't be ignored nor separated from who she is. She can hide it, but at the end of the day, it's always there, a reminder of what she's lost. If it wasn't bad enough being Shao-tuckered in the first place, she's cursed again by her new family, the very people she thought she could trust. It really doesn't seem like Izutsumi has much of a relationship with these characters. Aside from Tade, none of them really speak to her, none of them really seem like they have her best interest in mind. So since an early age, she's been taught that she has to do everything herself. She's not just a cat, she's a street cat, skittish, damaged, and desperate for a real home. The details of Izutsumi's past and the nature of her curses are left vague on purpose, because they should be vague. You can't tell what a person's emotional baggage is by looking at them, any more than you can look at Izutsumi and determine what made her this way. But that's also kind of the point, right? What actually happened isn't as important as how it shaped her. And so while we don't know the specifics, we do understand how it defines her, and so we sympathize with her wanting to get back to normal. This balance of human and beast, person and trauma, normal and cursed, it's this duality that's central to Izutsumi's character. And it's this normalcy or lack thereof that's the primary motivation for her character. There's this compulsion, this quiet desperation for someone to fix her. Her life has been irreparably changed by external factors she can't control, so she seeks those same outward factors to then in turn make things okay again. And only through this act of being fixed can she return to how she was before the curse. As much as Izutsumi mirrors Fallon, I also think she parallels Marcille in a lot of ways. Both are relying on forbidden magic to change things they can't accept, and I wonder if that duality is something we'll touch on in the rest of this story. I really think Dungeon Meshi's main moral on black magic is, well, firstly, don't, but secondly, that you can't heal from the same thing that got you sick in the first place. Looking to more forbidden magic to help things is likely going to make things worse before it ever makes things better. But the thing is, it doesn't have to be like that. Being fixed doesn't have to be linear. It can happen when you least expect it. And Izutsumi's worldview changes when she's shown kindness. First by Tade, as we get a glimpse of in her flashback, but then by Laios' party. That icy exterior from years of neglect begins to melt away when she realizes that this ragtag group of weirdos genuinely cares about her. And why wouldn't they? They already accept each other despite their faults. What's one more strange little member of this found family? Just like she was the missing piece of the party too is a missing piece of her. Even though Izutsumi laments who she's become, maybe it's Laios who has the right idea after all, that no matter what, at the end of the day, you're still you. And that no matter how scarred you might be, no matter the curses you've been dealt, you can get through it. Instead of a narrative companion to Fallon, maybe the end of Izutsumi's story is daring to take a different path. Acceptance. If Fallon is the story of being saved and returning to how you were, maybe Izutsumi's story is learning to be okay with who you are, that you don't need to be fixed, that the things you thought were curses might just be what the people around you love most. And they might just make you a badass ninja, but I guess that's besides the point. Thank you guys for checking out this video. If you liked it, feel free to leave a like and a comment, and feel free to subscribe. If you'd like to support the channel, check out my Patreon like all of my lovely patrons and YouTube channel members. Thank you guys so much for supporting me. It really means a lot, especially since I am the tiniest anime channel to ever do it. The smallest one. Thanks again, and until next time.